Good afternoon to everybody who is on our time zone, and good morning and good evening to everybody else. Thank you for joining us again for this episode from myself here and the lovely Jen.
Hello. Thanks for joining us.
So today we're talking about truth. Obviously, last week we discussed, via Veritatis, which is Latin for, the true way and finding the true way. We were discussing what that really meant. What we're discussing in this episode is what is truth, and how do you understand it, and how do you define it, and what are the things in which it is grounded that help us really get to the crux of it. So Jen, you give me your feeling on the direction of this here.
So last week we did touch on the fact that what has happened to society. We are filled with tons of lies, right? And at the foundation of that is the absence of God. And Jesus says, I am the truth, I am the way, I am the life. God is truth, and what God has created is truth, and there is no other truth but that. People who pretend, and eventually even the people who don't follow that as truth will be affected by that choice, right? Mm-hmm. God creates order, and without God, there is no order. And so, the truth is God and what he has created, and the order in which we are supposed to live, and the way, like how he created every single thing that there is. That is truth. And what he's provided for us as a way to live is truth. And that is the only way we can come to full fulfillment and alignment and truth, whether we experience that as our truth, but it is the truth. It's very confusing because, obviously, people in this day and age just feel that truth is subjective, and it's whatever you want it to be. It's whatever it is in the moment, based on your feeling. So that's kind of my overall feeling of truth. It is God.
Yes, and I think from my perspective, I'm broadly with you. As you know, I'm probably slightly more. I would probably say slightly less, deeply grounded in the Bible and Scripture as yourself. But I still believe that the underlying principle of truth is grounded in that, whether you believe it or not, it has to be grounded in a God.
Yeah.
Whichever one you happen to think that is, whichever one you follow, there must be a guiding underlying principle that ultimately defines what truth is, and more importantly, what isn't. Because we as humans are quite unique in that we are one of the only species that have ever been documented to be able to lie. And twist the truth and pretend things are different to what they are. Now, they have, found in some experiments that some animals can be deceptive and so on, but they're not able to construct an elaborate lie. Yeah. Whereas some people, we've probably all met some of these people, are capable of living their entire lives in a lie.
Of course, I have known several of those people.
Yeah. I think we all have.
I would say I used to live in my own lie.
Yeah, as did I. So we've all been there, and I think the challenge with defining truth, and you summed it up quite well, is that there's subjectivity to it. And I really hate the phrase whenever I hear someone say it, of my truth. And every time I hear somebody say, "Oh, this is my truth," I always immediately have the reaction in my head, well, then you just don't know what you're talking about.
I immediately cringe. It's like very cringy, because my truth, I mean, there's no such thing. There's only the truth.
Mm.
What is my truth can be anything. I can define morality however I want. I can define right and wrong however I want. Like that's my truth. Anybody can say that.
The only way that ends up is in total anarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you allow everybody to define what's true in their own way, then you don't have any common ground anywhere.
Right. And so that's kind of like, okay, taking my love for Jesus out of this equation, I would say that a belief in a higher power is most important to determine what truth is. I think at the end of the day, whether you believe in Jesus or not, there's still God. Like, you have many different religions who don't believe in Jesus, but they still believe in God. Some people don't believe in God at all. Some people believe in the universe and whatever that, but still, maybe I still think that does guide them to be more principled than just having a free for all, no higher power. Like we're just here. Why are we here? Who knows? Who cares? Like, let's just live life on this earth and be done with it.
Yes, exactly. And I think you've touched on something interesting there, because it's been posited a lot of times and amongst a lot of different things with people around what's often referred to as the God hole. So people who don't believe in God, what do they believe in instead? Because everybody, it seems it is existential to people that we must have some grounding principle to believe in. We must have something that is bigger than ourselves to believe in. And what you see with people who are very atheistic, and I know I was like this myself for a long time, is that ultimately what you're believing in is just yourself. And so therefore you immediately get back to that same problem, in that everybody's just believing in themselves and nothing else, and everybody's morality and everybody's ideas are constantly diverging rather than converging. But and it's a very profound issue, and we touched on it in the while we were talking before we came live here about the part of the Bible where Jesus is being questioned by Pilate about the crimes that he supposedly committed, and Pilate can't actually find a single crime in what he's being accused of. And then Jesus says to him that all who care about truth listen to my voice, and I think that is something it's one of those things that I think is one of the things with biblical references that some people struggle with, because for some people, they will read that on face value of, oh, you've got to believe in Jesus to believe in truth. And I think most Christians would say, well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I definitely believe that.
Yeah. Whereas a lot of people who struggle with connecting themselves to religion, and I know because I was in the same situation, have to find deeper meaning within that statement to be able to properly reference it in their own mind.
Yeah, and it's really difficult, like you said, if there is not that belief of Jesus or of God. Like, one of my very best friends is atheist, and he has moral character of a Christian, but he doesn't believe in God or Jesus. And it's like, how do you get there? Like, he can't. He's very spiritual. Like, he believes in creation,
spiritual stuff. Yeah.
But like, but again, like, it could go the other way too, very easily, probably more so. So how does one determine, if there is no religion, how does one determine what truth is? Like, how do you, without there being anarchy? Like, I personally think it's infinity to the power of infinity impossible.
Yes, I mean, I think it's interesting because we were talking about this thing, and I've actually got a forthcoming episode on my podcast, on my other podcast, fairly soon, which is relating to the transhumanism debate. And so we were touching on this, and so it's, you know, it's. There was a guy I was listening to on a fairly recent debate about this, and he was saying, "Oh, we're borrowing like 85% of the Christian ethic to guide what we're doing in transhumanism." And the question was being put back to him. I say, well, so what's the 15 to 20% that you don't like, and what do you, and why? And he couldn't answer it. He wasn't able to provide the answer as to what are the things that we're leaving out.
Well, I think I know what that is. The 15 to 20% that they're not okay with is the surrender and sacrifice that exists when you believe in God.
Very, very much so, because effectively
You
what
have
the
to let go.
Transhumanism is to cheat death.
Right.
And obviously the whole point and underlying principle within religion and the Christian ethic and so on is that the point of death is for you to go back to your creator. Is to go. It's part of what life is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so the desire to cheat that has to necessarily therefore divorce you from theism.
Yes.
Which then begins the slippery slope of how far do you go?
Yeah.
Because if you're not grounded in that, what happens?
Yeah, I think that's really difficult. And can you just explain for people exactly what transhumanism is? Because I didn't really know what it really is.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's one of these slightly fluffy kind of terms, but in basics, what it's referring to is the augmenting of the human mind and the human body using technology to therefore cheat death, to keep us alive longer, to make us stronger, to make us faster, to give us better eyesight, to mean we don't necessarily have to eat food, to stop us from ever taking on diseases, to increase our ability to compute data, and all these kind of things that they're talking about. And there's the Theseus' ship principle. Have you heard of that? So Theseus was is ancient Greek, and there was a ship of his that was built, and they've used this in a couple of different ones. The famous ship, the Argo of Jason the Argonauts, was there for as well, for example. And what they've done is, over time, as a piece of it rot away, they've taken that piece away and replaced it.
Okay.
At what point is it no longer the original ship?
Yeah. Okay.
It's that question mark that comes into this. How far do you augment the humans to before they're no longer human?
That is a really good question. Kind of like this comment, and I want to talk more about that, but this comment that we just got also, at some point we'll start to believe our own lies, and we live justifying them with the hope it will become truth if enough people believe them. It kind of like ties into what you just said. Like, at what point, because you can tell your brain a lie so many times that you will 100% believe it's true.
Absolutely.
Like, I can think of a couple of things that I used to tell myself, and I truly, like, eventually they just become truth in your mind, because your mind doesn't actually know the difference between reality and what you tell it, right?
Yes.
I think that's fascinating. So yeah, it's really dangerous, I think. So at what point do you, I don't agree with the transhumanism, even though it sounds pretty cool. Like, I want to cheat death, and I want to have no disease, for sure.
Yeah, and not age, and all these kind of things that that transhumanism effectively promises. But I think, again, if you boil it down to the principles underneath it, effectively what you're doing with transhumanism is you are saying life here matters more than life in eternity. than life in heaven, life with God, whatever happens to be the spiritual life.
Yeah.
Though this matters more, and so in quite a lot of ways that connects very strongly to the question of, is that the trick of evil? Because the trick of evil is to draw you away from God. That's the point of what it's there to do. It's to pull you away from what is good, what is true, what does matter. Is to pull you away from those things and put you into another into a completely another world. I heard somebody say the other day that hell is not fire and brimstone. It's lounging around on a sofa eating burgers forever.
That's what I believe. Like, I've often questioned, like, I think we've talked about this before too. I've often questioned if our time on Earth is obviously like it's life. It's like kind of like, if you could view it as a test, like, then will you move on to the next level, which would be eternity with God, or do you stay here, in which it would be hell? So it's like, are we actually living in hell right now? Yeah. But then we have a chance to leave it, and the people who don't choose that will just stay here forever in misery. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. But sorry for Chris, we've lost on the transhumanism. So let me kind of go back to it. The easiest way to think about it is that you've probably heard of the Neuralink, which they're developing with Tesla and SpaceX and so on. They're developing the Neuralink, which is a chip that goes in people's brains that allows them to connect to the internet and do all these things with that. What transhumanism also does is it's saying, we're going to create technologies that basically means you can put stuff in your body which will stop you from aging. It'll fix all of anything that happens to you. It will mean that you don't have to eat because it will process other things, and it will help you live. And
are you serious?
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. It would be able to do in the long-term future. They're talking about like a nanobot that you can put into people that will breathe for you. It will do all kinds of things to basically keep you alive forever.
You literally can't die.
That's the point of it. Yes, and so absent of serious accident destroying your whole body, you basically wouldn't die. And so the point of transhumanism is that it's designed to take you completely away from the experience of being human. That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, no, thank you. It kind of reminds me of movies, right? Or shows where the woman is, enticed to can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, you're still there. You froze for a moment, but you're back now.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So sorry. So you know how the female is like enticed to, fall in love with the vampire. Yes. And then essentially it's like the same thing. Like, even if he's a nice, handsome guy, he is not of God. Yeah. And yet if she goes to be with him, she can live forever in this newly transformed vampire body, right? It's that classic story. Like, but eventually I think there are some stories where it just doesn't, like, they eventually are just so miserable because they can't die, and they're living in hell because it's like they have to keep starting over and over and over and over. I think that's going to be the same thing. Like, I don't want any part of that. That's for sure.
No. And actually it's quite interesting. I've been Christmas tradition, watch do a Lord of the Rings marathon in the way running up to Christmas. I like to watch those every single year, and only the extended versions will do, by the way. And one of the things that Tolkien explored in Lord of the Rings is immortality, because the elves are immortal, and the immortality that they experience actually produces pretty bad results for them, because they can't actually enjoy the life that they have for for forever.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was a very good line from Troy where he says that, you know, the gods envy us because we're mortal. Because every bite of food could be our last, and every moment could be the end, and you will never be more lovely than you are now. You'll never have a better experience than you would at this exact moment in time, because every single one matters. I think that's the kernel of truth really underneath it all, isn't it? It's the principle of the human experience is grounded on truth. And I think that the push to take us away from truth is designed to remove us from God.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is the whole point of a lot of people, a lot of groups. This is why there's the destruction of men too. With the destruction of men, there's also less probability that God will be involved in family, all kinds of things. Someone did say up above that I wanted to address that we are not in hell currently because hell is separation from God, and that is absolutely true. Yes, I'm just speculating.
Well, I think a lot of people probably do live in that state, though. There's a lot of people here on earth who are living completely separated from God.
Right. I mean, even Jesus did, for the moment that he, took on everybody's sin in that moment on the cross. Like, God, why have you forsaken me? Like that, he was in hell in that moment. He was completely separated from God.
Yeah. I think the way that I've heard it explained quite well is that you've got the ability to create for yourself heaven or hell within this life, and it just depends which way you go.
True.
You can create yourself a very heavenly life here, or you can create yourself a very hellish one.
You can, and especially if you take it, we're supposed to store up heavenly treasures, not earthly ones.
Yeah.
Taking it that way, I could definitely see that. You can create yourself a heavenly life by following Jesus and following God, and storing up treasures in heaven for when you get there.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I find it extremely interesting. I mean, jumping back onto the thing that I think we want to try to explore here, which is how do we define truth? The way that I have looked at it, and we touched on this before we came live here, is that, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, truth is something that it exists absent feelings and emotion. So if I was to say that, I think that the desk behind me is red, not brown, for sake of argument, I'm saying it's red.
Yeah.
But absent my decision to say that, it's brown.
Right.
It's and so I think that for me, truth is best defined as the reality of the world, minus opinion and feeling.
Okay.
That's what it is in my mind. I don't know how well I'm doing as trying to define that, but that's the way that I've tried to frame it as best as I possibly can.
I get that. I think in some situations it could get sticky. For instance, if you want to go way out there, if you think about something like the whole gender identity thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can define that as, okay, you're born a man, you're born a woman, and you can't change that. That is something that is reality, right? It's visible, it's physical, it's biological. Now, what if you take that to transgenderism? Like, if you change your body, is your new body truth? because that is part of reality in that.
In a sense, I think again, it's sort of underneath the surface of it all. So, for example, I've heard the analogy given that if a man is born and decides he wants to be a woman and has his body changed to be like a woman and look like a woman and present like a woman and so on, when he eventually dies and he's buried and his ends up as just bones, if someone digs up those bones and examines them, they'll be like, oh, this is a man.
Yeah.
Because they can tell from the shape of and formation of bones that they're men's bones.
Yeah.
So I think that's truth minus the input of emotion and subjectivity, because the changes that you've done to yourself, they're done through emotion and subjectivity. They're not done. They're not truthful changes. It's the same as if you change the color of something. You cover something up. So like you've got a sofa and you put a cover over it. The cover is a particular color, but the sofa underneath is still the same. Unless you get it completely reupholstered, which is a different thing. But if you're just putting it over the top, it doesn't change anything. So I think again that is an input from a person attempting to change the truth, but it doesn't actually change the fundamentals of the truth.
Okay, I agree with you. It's still so difficult for me to reconcile this in my mind, how you can define truth without scripture, without God, because even if for things that are iffy, you can go back to the word and see what it says.
Yeah. Yes.
About everything. Like it is laid out to where there is an answer for everything except for how does God work the way he does? Like that's the only thing it doesn't answer, right?
Yeah. The only mystery is why God does what he does.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
And so I still can't reconcile that. Like how can you can convince anybody of anything, I think, if you don't have the word to go back on.
Yes, and I don't disagree. I think that's entirely true. I think the absolution of truth is related to let me rephrase that. I think that the purpose of truth is only necessary if it wasn't possible to lie. So, in other words, if we as humans were not capable of lying, there would be no need for us to have a word such as truth.
True.
There'd be no reason for us to define truth, because everything that was spoken and everything they ever discussed would be true.
Right.
However, I think that we were imbued with free will and creativity because it is, as we were touching on fairly recently. I was talking about this in an AI conversation and so on I was having recently as well. That is a tool that we have been given, and it is how we apply that tool that matters. So we have been given the ability to envisage things that do not exist.
Yes.
And we have been given that ability so that we are able to create things that do not exist.
Yes.
So that we are able to build a ever improving world. But you can use that same tool to fool people.
Yes, absolutely.
You can use that same tool to make people believe something exists that doesn't.
I have often seen simple AI videos that I thought were real.
Yeah.
And were definitely not real.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a tool that, again, is being used, and again, it throws in the problem of of defining how you say something, because there's a difference between truth and real, I think.
Sure.
Okay, so for example, an AI video, it's a real video. You can look at it, it's still a video, you can still watch it, it's still there. It's not the truth about what happened because it's completely made up.
Right.
Okay, but you could say the same thing about a cartoon.
Sure, or a movie.
That people have drawn and made, or a movie and anything like that. They didn't really happen.
Yeah.
They were created for a particular purpose. They weren't something that actually really happened. But so they were real, but they're not truth.
Yeah.
But they can also wrestle with the truth. It's a very abstract, process, because part of the reason we write books and make films and make great works of art and so on is to look at truth, is to examine truth, and is for us to examine the human condition and to help us understand each other.
Yeah.
And how we approach things and how we think about things and so on. That's kind of the whole point.
Right. And on that point, I think it's also okay to wrestle with God / truth. Truth with a capital T.
Yeah. That's the it was interesting. I've just finished reading Jordan Peterson's book, We Who Wrestle with God. I don't know if you've read it yet, but it's a good book.
No, but I have it.
Yeah. So
do you love it?
The name Israel that's what it means.
Truth.
He who wrestled with God.
Oh, he who wrestles with God. Yes.
Yeah, Israel. That's what that's the person who was called Israel was someone who wrestled with God. That's where it came from.
Yeah, makes total sense.
And it's so it's really interesting to look at that, because the whole thing is related to that same set of principles and underlying considerations.
Yeah. You've completed the book?
I have, yeah. So fairly recently, last couple of weeks, I finished reading it. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. That's my next.
It's a good book. I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I've had it for quite a while. I just haven't read it.
Yeah.
Frankie says truth is not subjective as culture defines it. It is absolute, yet relational, because it is rooted in Jesus. Truth is revealed by the Spirit, consistent and unchanging, and lived out through a relationship rather than abstraction. If truth were subjective, then faith itself would lose its foundation. You're lighting up a cigar right now? That's awesome.
They help me think.
If truth were subjective, then faith itself would lose its foundation. Wait, I just lost it.
Yeah.
Lose its foundation. Oh no. And the witness of the Holy Spirit would become something to question rather than trust. Yeah. Like it's impossible to have truth without God. It's impossible.
I think
it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Well, I think that's the reason behind the lies that are perpetuating in society at the moment. The reason is rooted in evil.
Mm-hmm.
It is rooted in the desire to draw us from God. It is.
Yeah.
I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah. So on that note, what do you think are the biggest lies that we are told?
I think that the biggest one that has been told to most people is that you can still find meaning in your life without God. I think that's the biggest one.
That is a big one.
Because even the people who enjoy their lives, have good lives, live in a particular way, and so on, most of them will eventually come back to God anyway, because they realize that ultimately they've been living in the way that God would have taught them to live. And they realize, well, I was following this thing the whole time. Why aren't I still? Or why wasn't I ever following this particular set of teachings? I think that's what defines the purpose underneath life is those teachings at the very least. Even if you don't necessarily follow them, that's what underlies everything. And when you have children, especially, I was very, very atheistic most of my own life, all the way through my 20s. Really, I didn't believe in any of it, and when I got to the age where I started, wanting to have a better life, because my life was very devoid of meaning.
Yeah.
And I spent probably the better part of a decade looking for that, looking for some sort of meaning, looking for something that I could ground meaning in. And it was having children that made the biggest change.
That's what took you closer to God?
Yeah. Because
like that's what changed your belief?
It was. Having children changed my belief there, because when my daughter was born, I had, well, even when my wife was pregnant with her, and she was getting to the point where she was almost born, and you can feel them moving and everything like that. And I suddenly had this real new appreciation of what life meant. That myself and my wife had the opportunity to participate in creation with God. Because that's what happened. We provided the meat, and he provided the soul. That's pretty much the best way to put it. And having this and having a child born that you love unconditionally, that you love in a way that you could never even put into words.
Yeah.
That changes your entire perception of what life really means. You find it hard to connect that with anything.
Yeah.
That isn't divine.
That's beautiful.
That was my experience anyway.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I mean, I didn't have the exact same story. Let me rephrase that. I wasn't atheist and then became a believer. I've always been a believer, but I think definitely having children puts things into much different perspective. You start to pay attention to what's actually important and what is the truth.
Yeah.
And then, but at that point, I still wasn't even a follower, so I wasn't doing the things that I was supposed to do. I think when you actually do the things you are supposed to do and transform your sense of morality and your version of right and wrong to God's, and you actually start truly repenting, which, I always, as a kid, thought it was just, I'm sorry, God, I'm sorry for messing up.
Yeah.
But it requires change, and then not looking back to that sin, right? Like, definitely you'll be forgiven over and over and over again, but true repentance is acknowledgement and ownership, change, transformation. So
I agree. I think it's, you and I and plenty of other people have met what I would call fake Christians. People who would claim to be Christians but don't really do the things that Christians are supposed to do. And I'm certain there's probably similar people in all kinds of different religions, but there is a very big difference between believing in God and following the word of God.
Satan believes in God.
And
Frankie just said again, which I think, I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure it'll be a good comment. The most dangerous lie is not the one that openly opposes scripture, but the one that sounds like scripture without being rooted in it. Satan never said he wanted us unhappy. Much of deception is aimed at our happiness, whispering, right, do what feels good.
Yeah.
What he truly seeks is not our discomfort, but the emotion or the erosion of our relationship with God and the slow planting of doubt about who God is.
Yeah.
When a message closely resembles scripture but subtly shifts its meaning, it initiates a form of, I can't read the rest, psychological something.
Yeah, it's I can't see the rest of the comment here either. It's like it's cut the comment off at a certain amount of characters probably. But yeah, a psychological, I'm assuming that word is going to be, and then I'm not sure what follows on from that. But yeah, it's true. You know, I think that, you know, it was probably quite bad marketing on behalf of the church, and I think it was predominantly the Catholic Church that marketed hell as fire, brimstone, and being torn limb from limb, and being tortured forever, and so on. I think that is bad marketing because that's not what hell is. Hell is the living in the seven sins. It's living in gluttony, in greed, in sloth, in envy, and it's living in that perpetual cycle of doing all the things that you shouldn't be doing. And the reason you shouldn't be doing them isn't just because God says you don't do those things. It's because those things negatively impact your entire life.
Right. Those things will lead to destruction, which is like what the lies of Satan will do. They all seem really, really nice. Like going back to the whole vampire thing, they seem like, like I want to live like this. I want to live in
great to live forever.
Yeah. I want to live forever. I want to go fully explore all my desires. I want to do what feels right and follow my heart, and, you know, do all of the things. Be a hedon, right? Like
hedonism. Yeah, is live perpetually in the moment.
Yeah, and you will destroy yourself.
Yeah, you will. Yeah,
you have to have
whether you realize it or not.
And because it's just a very slow rot that sounds very, very attractive, but will ruin. Like, and it's just like Frankie said, those whispers of doubt. And you can apply that to so many things, whether it's, you know, alcohol, porn, so many different things.
Yeah, and again, it's the drip, drip, drip rather than the sudden destruction. It doesn't work like that. It works as a it works as a slow rot. Not a sudden striking down.
The very slow drip that eventually creates the huge hole. That you can't repair. I mean, exactly. you can always be saved. That's not what I'm saying.
No, I know what you mean, but you could have created so much damage up to that point that it's that regardless of any personal redemption, the damage remains.
The damage definitely remains.
Because it's the damage to others that's the real problem in that. Is the it's the real damage that's created is the damage that you leave in your wake, not necessarily the damage you do to yourself, because you have the opportunity to fix that. You have the opportunity to repair your damage, but you may not be able to repair the damage you've done to others.
Right. That's definitely true. You know, other little things are lies too, like if you even think about something like forgiveness.
Yes.
Satan doesn't want you to forgive anybody because, like,
why would you
be mad, take revenge, like, let's defend yourself. But forgiveness does so much for, even if the other person doesn't even like get affected by you forgiving them, maybe they're, you know, not connected in that way, but it does so much for you. It does so much for you. Now it can do something really special for the other person too. And that doesn't mean that, you know, a lot of people think that forgiveness also is saying that you're just going to be let yourself get beat up and abused, and
Hmm.
you accept people for who they are and like treating you poorly. That's not
Yeah.
what it is at all. It's forgiveness doesn't mean that you accept the person back into your life if they're like, I've been physically abused. Someone who has physically abused my son, I forgive him. Like truly, I truly forgive him. Um, there have been other
You're a bigger person than I am.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
I'm not sure I could ever forgive somebody who for physically abusing my daughter. Like I don't think I could ever forgive that personally, and I know that I should, but I would find it very hard to do that.
Well, if you look back at the word truth, the true answer, the true response to that would be forgiveness. And I know, I get it. It's hard. I was having a conversation with my oldest daughter yesterday. I guess there was something in the news. Did some like child murder their parent yesterday or something? Celebrity.
So the director Rob Reiner, his son killed him and his wife in bed, cut their throats in bed.
Yeah. So then she was asking me like, okay, so if Hayden, tried to murder you in the middle of the night, would you forgive us? And I said, yes. Not only are you my child, but that's what we are called to do, is forgive people. That doesn't mean I want to have a relationship with you anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or that doesn't mean I'm like not going to be scared of you. But absolutely, I would forgive you. And she was more along the lines of your thinking, like, I don't know if I could forgive anybody who tried to kill me.
You see, I think it's slightly different in that sense. I would probably be prepared to forgive someone who tried to kill me, but I don't think I could forgive someone who tried to hurt someone I love.
Yeah,
I don't think I could do that. I think that's I think there's a difference there. That's fair. I think it could be the masculine thing of my job is to stand in the way of people who are trying to hurt people I love, and therefore I don't see harm or something coming at me as personal. Or as something that is unexpected or unacceptable. But if I felt that somebody was trying to hurt my child or my wife or anyone like that, I don't think I could ever forgive that person. I think I would really struggle with that.
Okay, that's fair.
And I say, I'm not saying that I believe that's right.
Yeah.
Because I know it's not.
It's not. And since we're talking about truth, like the truth tells us that that's not right. But that doesn't mean that living in the truth isn't really difficult.
Yeah, because it is.
Living in the truth is extremely difficult. That's why nobody does it.
Yeah, that's why so few people do it. Yeah, I mean, there's one or two, but very few.
Yeah.
And there's always the hypothetical situations of, is it acceptable to lie in this circumstance or in this circumstance or in this circumstance? And obviously the answer biblically is no, it's never acceptable to lie.
That is the answer.
However, most people in most of those kind of hypothetical situations of, would you lie to save the life of your child every day?
Yes.
Every day.
Of course.
That's just the, that's just the way that we're also programmed. And I suppose it's difficult to square that, isn't it? It's difficult to analyze that from the perspective of God, if that makes sense, because obviously we're never going to understand God's perspective. But what I mean is, if you were in a situation where that was happening, biblically, you should tell the truth.
Biblically, you should tell the truth. I can think of some situations in which I think, even though I would never speak for God, that it would be all right like if you are, because he does call you to be prepared and also to protect your family, right?
Yeah.
So now
Exactly.
if it's out of sheer protection for your family, I think it's okay. Now,
Yeah.
if you're lying to protect the life of your child, from receiving punishment for something that they've done, then that's not
I think
right.
that's different. I think
Yeah.
punishment is different. I think, but the example that jumps into my head is the during the Holocaust. Your child's been hidden somewhere, and they've called you, and there's anyone else here, you'd say no.
Yes, absolutely.
to protect the life of your child, even though it's a lie.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where I think the gray area that non-religious people struggle with. I think that's part of the gray area that is difficult to comprehend.
Well, a lot of Christian people who aren't 100% followers, which I know it's a really hard thing to do, is to be a 100% follower. A lot of Christians, I think this is why they have a bad reputation, is that they pick and choose which parts of the truth they want to follow.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yes.
You mold God's word into what fits in your life.
Yes.
And
yes, exactly, yeah.
You can't do that. It's either this way or that way. There's no in between. If you're going in between, sure, you're doing some good things, but yeah, you just can't pick and choose, and that's the hard part. Like,
I think I think what that effectively is that in itself is a lie. If what you're doing is adapting it to fit your own, to fit what benefits you, you are lying.
Yeah.
You are stepping away from it. You're because there's the famous one of the commandment of do not take the Lord's name in vain.
Right.
Lots of people think that's just saying, when you're annoyed about something, oh, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
That's not what it means.
Right.
What it means is effectively being hypocritical and saying, I follow the Lord, I follow Jesus, but what you're doing is you're using that to benefit you.
Yeah. Or you're even like literally using God's word to negatively impact somebody or judge somebody or something like that. I think that's taking God's name in vain too.
Yes.
Also, I think taking God's name in vain is when you say, like, I swear to God, because he tells us not to make oaths like that, not to make promises, because a person of true integrity doesn't have to promise anything. They just do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's taking God's name in vain too. I've still never said JC or GD, just for that reason. I've never said those things.
No, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, I think I look at it slightly differently in that I don't think those things are necessarily bad, as like throwaway bits of, language and so on. I don't think they're necessarily bad in and of themselves, but I see it as the real sin is, as we said, utilizing it for your own ends. That's what it really means.
Right.
And when it comes to truth, I mean, one of the best things I've heard said is that if you always tell the truth, you never have to remember what you've said.
Mm-hmm. No, that's huge. Like, cause I, like I was kind of hinted at the beginning, I've said a lot of lies in my life, but they were out of self-protection. Now, were they all things I should have said? Absolutely not. Yeah. I had, back when I was a people pleaser, back before I became a true follower of Christ, and I was never a bad person. I had tons of good intentions, but I had a habit of saying white lies to either make myself feel more confident or make myself look a different way to somebody I was either afraid of or didn't want a certain reaction from, or whatever the case may be. I would say most of those things were 100% wrong because I wasn't honoring myself. When you lie, you're also not honoring yourself.
Yeah.
God created you to be a certain way. And, unless it's like literally to save your life, I don't think, like, if I think about all the times I said white lies that were seemingly harmless, I was really, really hurting myself. And I And I consequently believed less and less and less and less in myself.
Yeah. And I think that's the crux of it, isn't it? In the, you know, in these last 5 minutes, what I'd like to do is drill into something quickly here, and that is, how do you decide when, you know, in your day-to-day life, when it's okay to tell a lie? Because, you know, it's the question around white lies, and Gary's just mentioned it here. You know, what is a white lie? Is it not a lie?
It's a lie.
Yes, it is. It's a
yes,
lie.
It is a lie.
It is a lie. But it's the same thing as I think we touched on this briefly last week with, you know, sometimes those little white lies are harmless in some way, but and I think, again, it's all about the magnitude. I do think that I appreciate that biblically it's, you know, all of it is the same. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that there is magnitude that matters, and so, you know, telling your child, "Oh no, we've run out of candy," you know, it's you know, just so they won't keep asking for it because they know it's there and they want it. You say, "Oh no, we've run out of it now," or whatever it happens to be.
Like Santa Claus,
because they're two and they don't understand, or Santa Claus, or whatever it happens to be. You know, those things, those are lies, but yeah, they're not necessarily harmful lies. And so how do you personally try to navigate that?
Well, I think in my normal day-to-day life, I've learned to become extremely transparent. If I don't consistently stay true to myself and my values and my beliefs and do the things that I feel called to do and be according to God, I know what it's like on the other side. And like I was saying about those white lies that are, yes, of course, real lies. That was Satan's way of getting to me.
Yeah.
And that led me into a very dark hole that I did climb out of, but some people don't. Those little things, because Satan works in those ways, right? He works in the ways that speak to you personally. He's really smart. He's really smart, but he's not smarter than God. No. And you can't overpower him. How do I navigate those things? Well, with my girls, I tell them everything. Because there was a time that I didn't, and I don't think it was the right thing to do. And the fact that I do tell them everything makes me, I think, a better parent to them, because I'm vulnerable. They can see my mistakes. I'm accountable and I take ownership. Whereas before, I never took ownership for anything. I was Miss Perfect Parent, and I truly was not at all. So being transparent with the kids has been important. Am I transparent with my little boy? Sure, but
to a degree.
Yeah, to a degree, to where it's appropriate. I think there's a level of appropriate or not with kids, of course. I have an adult child, so I tell her everything.
Yeah.
In my daily life, no, I am completely transparent. There are things that are embarrassing, things that bring me shame, things that bring me guilt, and I will still talk about them because when you don't talk about those things, if you're asked, of course, I'm not just going to like come out and say my whole life story to people, but I say the truth. I say the truth. And you know what? That brings me closer to God and keeps me connected to God. When you start to veer from the truth, like you start feeling really poorly. Yeah. That's when my mind turns into chaos. That's when my mind turns to panic. I mean, you and I talked about this backstage. I have been in a panic mode all day today and the other day, because it's when I'm not being truly aligned to God. Yeah. That's when it happens. And so if you want peace and if you want calm, follow the truth, not your truth.
Yeah.
And there is no picking and choosing. I don't know if that answers your question. I don't think it does.
I think that did a pretty good job, and actually I think that is a great way to bring this week's episode to a close. That was fantastic. Thank you, Jen. That was really good. Thank you. That was, in my opinion, the best way that you could have answered that. To be honest, I don't think there was a better way you could have tried to answer that, because it's a slightly unanswerable question. But yeah, it's very it's very freeing to be able to be truthful.
It is very freeing, and that's funny that we just have a comment that says that I am just learning this level of openness. It is very freeing.
Yeah.
Yes, it is so freeing.
Yeah.
Because when you're not true to yourself or true to God, you feel trapped, like you're in prison, and it is not like that leads to depression, anxiety. Like it's when you follow the truth, that's when your depression decreases. You have less anxiety. You have direction. You have guidance. You have calm. You have peace. Like, why wouldn't you want that?
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Anyway, so we won't be here the next 2 weeks.
No, next 2 weeks off, Christmas, New Year, and all that. So we'll be going back in again. I would say it'll be the week of the 5th. I think it'll be the next one. So it'll be Friday, Thursday the 1st. We won't be doing a New Year's Day one, I wouldn't think. So it'll be Thursday the 8th that we're back.
Yep, Thursday the 8th. I'll be in Scotland the 1st. So.
Of course, yeah, you're flying around the world, so
yeah. So, it's my favorite thing to do.
be difficult to get this done then. So yeah, that's fine.
I'm flying to your neck of the woods, not Scotland, but
yes,
I will be in London. You'll
be landing in London and then flying again.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well,
or rather, your old neck of the woods.
Yeah, the old neck of the woods. Yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure again, Jen. Thank you so much.
Yeah. We will see you guys in a couple weeks. Thank you, and God bless.